Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go.
Moving on. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It's Friday, October 4th, 2024, and I am reeling, exhausted. The playoffs have been going on for 3 days. I feel like it's the end of October already. The New York Mets have defeated the Milwaukee Brewers. Yes, pick of the day. Yes, the division, the series that I thought would happen the way it happened. But my God, when do things happen that never happen? I guess once they happen, you can't say they've never happened. But when they happen and you're told they've never happened, it makes no sense to me. Are you telling me that Pete Alonso, the polar bear, the man who was taking his last at-bat for the New York Mets down 2 in the 9th inning of a deciding winner-take-all game. Pete Alonso, with Scott Boras watching intently, saying, oh, God, it's going to be another Chapman situation. It's going to be a 1-1 deal next year. We are totally screwed. Come on, Pete. It's 2 men on. You're down 2. This is the moment we dream about. When you sign me as your agent, this is what's going to get you paid. You've got Devin Williams on the mound. Change up. He's going to keep throwing the changeup. It can't be. What are you changing up against, Devin? That's a changeup. Throw a fastball. Changeup. My God, that looks slow. You've got the airbender as a nickname, but it doesn't become much bending of air when you throw it and throw it and throw it. 3-1. Hitters count. Give him the heater. That's a subtle major league reference. No, they flick the fingers. There's finger flicking going on. No chance. There's no chance there's another changeup. Do. Boom. Opposite field? There's no way that's a home run. There's no way that's going out. Back goes. No, wait. It's over the wall. It's unbelievable. Pete Alonso hits a home run in the 9th inning, and the Mets take the lead 3-2, and people go crazy. Right next to the dugout, Steve Cohn jumping up and down like a total wild man. Oh, no. He had left in the 7th when the Mets had given up 2 home runs, and entire Mets fandom was saying it's over. Bailed. I'd like to tell you he went to the restroom, but nope. I know owners like this. I know owners who, when their team gets down late innings of big games, see you later, don't want to be a part of it, go to the clubhouse, some even go to their plane. I wonder whether Steve Cohn saw Pete Alonso's home run from General Mitchell Field's signature flight support. Or did he go to the clubhouse and sit in the manager's office and watch it from there? And if so, why not come back for the 9th inning and watch the bottom of the 9th? That'd be exciting. Security? No, I've sat in those seats. Security takes you right down to the field and through the dugout. No security issues. There's a guy next to you, actually. Just saying that all the Met fans said it's over. And why wouldn't they? There has not been, in the history of baseball, this is almost impossible to believe. In the history of baseball, no one's hit a go-ahead home run while trailing in the 9th inning of a winner-take-all postseason game. Nobody. Or in the 10th, or in the 11th, or 12th, or 13th, or 14th. Nobody's hit a home run that gives your team the lead in the 9th inning or later of a winner-take-all postseason game. I had to check it. Call my OPR guy. Peach, is that even possible? And I started going through the big home runs. Yeah, he said, never. So then it gets to the bottom of the 9th, and In comes the number one closer in baseball. No, not Josh Hader. He got rocked. No, not Devin Williams. He got rocked. Emmanuel Clase, still sitting at home. Suarez, he already did it for the Pods. David Peterson. Hell yeah. If I didn't see a $317 million payroll, it wouldn't have even occurred to me that David Peterson would be coming in to close. But so he did, because Diaz had to come in the 7th inning because Botto gave it up of a scoreless game. What a game until the 7th. And then what a game in the 9th. What, Coca? Budo, excuse me. Why did I say Botto? Budo came in and gave it up. Anyway, let's just put a bow tie on the wild card series if you don't mind. Here's how the bow tie is going to work. You got to win game 1. We said it before the series started. Then we gave you go-ahead stats as game 1's ended. Then we got into game 3, Mets Brewers, and people were saying panicked. Brewers got this. Do you know the teams who win game 1 are 18-2 in the wild card series? You're going to win the series. And if you happen to win game 1 on the road, which the Mets did, you were 10-2, now 11-2. The Mets had it in the bag. Pete Alonso, no problem. There's some thoughts going on right now that Devin Williams, who has just, I believe that was the first home run he'd given up off his changeup all year. There was a breakdown done by John Boy. He does these breakdowns, and the thought was that Devin Williams was tipping his pitches and that the Mets were able to figure it out. So I want to talk for 2 minutes, Coca, about what happens when our dugout thinks that we see a guy tipping pitches, which has happened, or our dugout thinks that our guy is tipping pitches, which we think is happening. Every team has, ours were bench players. There's some that are coaches. Their focus is on the pitcher, and they're looking for tipping anything, any tells of any kind. You don't wait for confirmation when you've got a thought. You articulate it immediately. If you are the Mets and you've been looking at Devin Williams and you have a thought, you don't wait till Alonso's coming up to bat. If you've gotten it when Lindor is at bat, in the first at bat that Devin did, you do it immediately. Let's assume that it took them through the Lindor at bat, which wasn't a short one, through the Nimmo at bat, and then they realize, well, wait a minute. We can figure out when he's going to throw his changeup. And it has to do with glove position. The problem with a tell like that is that the Brewers are able to see it too. And when you see your own player doing it, you get information to the manager who gets the pitching coach out for a mound visit immediately. Are there circumstances where one team gets the tell and the other team doesn't? It really doesn't happen all that often because both teams are checking for it and both teams are always good at finding it. Is this an example where the Mets found something that the Brewers didn't? We may see if Murphy would answer that, Pat Murphy. We may see if Carlos Mendoza will answer it. I doubt they will. We didn't like talking about it. We would always deny it. That was our thing when we had a pitcher's tells. We'd say we had no idea. You know, of course we were looking, but we could never see anything. And the reason why we would never publicize that we saw something is we didn't want the pitcher to change it. As a matter of fact, when there's a rumor of stealing signs, we deny it, or a rumor of figuring out a pitcher's pitch selection, we absolutely, resolutely deny it because we were going to face that pitcher again. So the Mets get to move on to play Philadelphia. I cannot believe it. Baseball was jumping up and down. The commissioner was sitting in New York saying, thank God. I love you, Mark. I love you, Rick. I love you, Bernie, and especially Bob Uecker, but we needed New York, Philly, and we have San Diego, LA. You match that. We've got the West Coast taken care of. We got the East Coast taken care of. We got the middle of the country taken care of. I mean, with Cleveland, Detroit, this is like heaven on earth, these matchups. Let's talk about the matchups in the division series, which start tomorrow. The Mets, there's no turnaround time. I was on CBS last night, Coca, on HQ, doing the postgame show. And I said that, funny enough, in terms of are the Mets going to be tired? Is there going to be a letdown in game one? When you're playing the way the Mets are, and you've had the type of week the Mets have had when they went from Atlanta, then there was a hurricane, so they flew to Milwaukee, then they had to go back to Atlanta for the doubleheader, then back to Milwaukee. If only North Central was still around, or Midwest Express, they would have been heavy on cookies in the past week. Now they've got to go to Philly. My thought is, knowing how teams are, they wish they were playing today. They don't even want the off day. It's not going to be a matter of the Mets being tired, the Mets being road weary. That's all real poppycock. These teams, when they get locked in October and you start feeling something, and that little something is either a stomach ache, indigestion, where Gaviscon is required, or it's the magical postseason pixie dust. And the thing about the magical postseason pixie dust is that more than one team thinks it has it. And by the end, you realize it was only one team that has it, but there's a winnowing process. So do you think Philly has it? No, they haven't played yet. Mets? Yeah. You think the Yankees feel it? No, they're just nervous. What about Kansas City? Maybe, but I don't think they feel pixie dust. Cleveland? Confident? Not pixie dust. What about Detroit? Yes. LA? No. San Diego? Yes. So San Diego, Detroit, and the Mets all feel like this is their year. I think we'd agree that at least 66% of those teams are going to be wrong. But when you're one of those teams, you just want to play. Now, is it ideal going into Philly to pitch when you are McGill and you're going to face Wheeler, who really could win the Cy Young? Or you feel really good about your game two starter, whoever they choose, Severino against Nola, and then the Mets could have Quintana. I don't know if they'll start Quintana game 3. They may hold him, put him in the bullpen. Quintana, can you imagine what he gave them yesterday? 6 scoreless. The advantage in every single game will be the Phillies. The Phillies will be favored. I don't know if we have a line for that series quite yet. The Phillies will be favored. My guess is 180. Serious kind of favor. The Mets, in every game they go into, saying we don't have the pitching advantage. The Mets look at the lineup and say Phillies is deeper. The top of the lineup, Lindor, is the second best player in the National League, but Philly in a snake draft likely has 3 in the top 10. Minus 185. That's not a bad guess there, Coca. That shows you what the betting market believes about Philly, and it's hard to argue with them, except what is the pixie dust worth? We're going to find out starting Saturday. I don't think anyone has more pressure on them than the Yankees out of the 8 remaining teams, even Dave Roberts and Shohei Ohtani. I think the Yankees win that battle of pressure. They did not make the postseason last year. Aaron Judge and Soto could be their only year together if Steve Cohen steps up. No, it won't be Buster Posey, and no, it won't be Mark Shapiro. Will not be the Giants or the Blue Jays. This is either Yankees or Mets for Soto, and Boris knows it. But is this it for Soto? Is it a successful season if they don't win the pennant? And the answer is no. There is no other way to define a season where you've got Judge and Soto together if you're not the last team standing in the American League. The thing is, you're going against a team in Kansas City. When you look at what the matchups will be, Waka against Cole. Wow, that's got to be a huge Yankees advantage. No, Garrett Cole's name is way bigger, but look at the performance of Waka and Cole. When you look at it, you realize that Cole is no longer a number 1 starter. Carlos Rodon, except for a couple starts, he's good, but are you really going to count on him when you're going against Cole Regans, who you may never have seen pitch, and then you're going to watch him pitch if you're a Yankee fan, and you're going to say, holy shnikes. And then that's until you get to game 3. Who are you going to go with? Stroman? I doubt it. Heel? Maybe. Nestor? Negative. Hurt? Schmidt? Wouldn't bet your bippy on that. Guess who the Royals get to go with? I bet. It's not announced yet. Wait to see. Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo. If Walker, Regans, and Lugo put the Yankees out of the playoffs, I used to think that not making the playoffs was the only way Boone and Cashman would get booted. But if they lose to the Royals in the division series, which could easily happen, imagine if the triumvirate of Judge, Soto, and Stanton hit 0 home runs, strike out 8 times, have a slugging and OPS of 600, and that's their lineup. It's not good. They got to be worried. They have to be worried. People are going to give you a good stat today that the Royals have won 9 out of their last 10 postseason series. My guess is there's not one player out of 52, not one out of 52 who's been around for any of that Royals dominance. Salvador Perez. It is one. Darn it. And that's off the top of my head. Fine. One player out of 52. People are not going to watch the Cleveland-Detroit series, and you're making a big mistake if you don't. There's all these series are so compelling that it's hard to rank them. But Cleveland-Detroit is 2 teams where, again, you won't be able to name many players, and then you're going to watch them play, and you're going to say, God, this team is so much better than my team. And all I do is yell at my GM and owner, sign some big-name free agents, please. Get me people I've heard of. And then you're going to watch Detroit and Cleveland and say, wait a minute. Maybe there's guys who the baseball people who've heard of that I should think about trusting because they're so good. Crazy in the division series to have a bye, which Cleveland did, and to have so many question marks in rotation. Of course, they've got BB, who is their number 1 starter. But then what? It's sort of like the cast that Hinch has, except Skubal is going to be the number 2, game 2 starter. So they've just got who? Boyd, Mize? It's insanity to me. Yet, you're going to get into the bullpen with Detroit and Cleveland, and it's going to make the Brewers bullpen look mediocre. It's going to make the Mets bullpen look like they should be playing in Omaha. You will be absolutely blown away. Clay Holmes wouldn't even make the team in Cleveland or Detroit. Think about that for a second, Yankee fans. There is no way to predict the Cleveland-Detroit series. Of course, I'm going to do it for you in a minute, but I'm not sure there's any way. As a matter of fact, what's the number on that one? I'm going to guess Cleveland minus 120 maybe, and Detroit plus 105. I mean, something very, very tight like that, because betting against the Tigers at this point would be a mistake since they've got the PD, the pixie dust, but Cleveland's also good. So while Coca gives me that, it is minus 25 plus 105. I literally just made that up. I think I may have said 120. Thank you, Coca. Look at you doing the lowers on Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. 3-person operation with graphics and lowers. Come on. This is great. What about LA San Diego? I'm now going to look at the screen. Are you putting the odds of the LA San Diego series up before I can guess them? Because I'd like to guess them first, because I've been pretty hot so far. I've got LA favored, but not by much. Minus 140 is my guess, with San Diego plus 110. I think that's as much as it should be, and I think that's probably a little heavy if I had to guess. Minus 40 plus 120. All right. Decent with the markets here. Let's talk about this series. The Dodgers they're the best team in baseball, right? They have the number 1 seed. They won 98 games. They've got the MVP, the best DH, the best leadoff hitter. They've got Betts and Freeman. Will Smith is no schlepper at catcher. Max Muncy's a good name. He used to be good. I mean, Kike could maybe hit. Miguel Rojas, Marlins fans know, my God, he can hit now. Sort of. Their starting pitching, just simply impossible to beat when you've got Yamamoto going game 1, the former Tiger Flaherty going game 2, Walker Buehler, who's a number 7 starter, going game 3. I'm telling you, take a look at the Dodgers starting pitching and bullpen, and then you'll say to yourself that the Padres are better every game. Who do you want? Cease or Yamamoto? Today's Yamamoto, not the $300 million Yamamoto. Today's Yamamoto. Who do you want? You want Cease. Who do you want, Darvish or Flaherty? Your choice. Postseason Darvish or Flaherty? Darvish. Game 3 may be a question mark for San Diego because Musgrove's hurt, but they've got plenty of depth. Plenty. As a matter of fact, the Padres, in theory, with their lineup where you get Arias on base, then you have Tatis, you have Profar, you have Machado as your top 4. I'm not so sure that can't match up against the Dodgers. And I don't think you realize how hard it is for me to say this. The Padres beat the Dodgers in 2022. They know how to do it. It's no longer, you're going to hear a little narrative about it being the ghost. The Padres are chasing the ghost of the Dodgers. That's really not the case. Peter Seidler always, the Padres may have that pixie dust because of Peter Seidler as well, their owner who passed away, if the irony is, Coca, is that if the Padres win the pennant, and this is the year Peter Seidler died, it is hard to argue there's a God. No one wanted his team to win more than Peter Seidler. Rank him in 30 owners. He may have been financially irresponsible. He may have been delusional about thinking that San Diego can be LA as a market. But my God, did he love San Diego, the fans, the team, the city. The irony of it happening now, that's a cruel, sick joke. All right, I think it's time now to give you the results. We had to wait to see on the wild card rounds. I did not do well. I only picked 2 out of the 4 series right, and you can imagine which. I had the Mets over the Brewers and the Padres winning. That worked, but I had the Orioles and the Astros winning. I really thought I was going 4 for 4 there. That's 2 out of 4 wait to sees. Not very good. All right, division series. Who do you got? Let's start with the first series we talked about, Phillies Mets. What am I going to do? How do you not pick the Mets to win when every team who's beaten the Brewers in the playoffs, every one of them, wins the pennant at least? 6 out of 9 times the Brewers have been eliminated. 6 times the team won the World Series. The other 3, the team lost in the World Series. It's 9 out of 9. For those of you who don't remember last year, the Diamondbacks beat the Brewers, and we gave you that stat, and we said that stat ends today. There's no way the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies in the LCS. But guess what? They did. They had to win 2 games in Philly last year, game 6 and 7, to keep that Brewers stat alive. So if you're a Mets fan, you're thinking, we got this. How do you not pick the Mets? Wait to see Division Series edition, Phillies. What about the Yankees Royals? I'm not going to spend much time on it. We're going Yankees. And I don't feel at all good about these first 2 picks. I feel really good about the last 2. We're taking Detroit over Cleveland, and we are taking San Diego over LA. It hurts me to go against my friends in Cleveland, but I also have friends in Detroit. It hurts me to say that AJ Preller is going to make it to the LCS, but he's got that kind of team. So we're going to go with Yankees and Tigers in the ALCS and Padres and Phillies in the NLCS. You're welcome, Coca. It should have been the Mets moment last night when Alonso hits the home run and then Peterson comes in, closes out the game, and I'm live on CBS and bing, ding, bing, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, wait, there's not breaking news. You're not allowed to have breaking news if you're not a playoff team. It's got to get approved by, wait, this can't be right. Coca, it says here that the Cincinnati Reds are hiring Terry Francona. All right, hold on, Coca. Let me just do the segment on CBS. We'll get back to it. But find out if that's true. That can't be true. Everybody had it. And it was breaking news right as the Mets were winning the series. Terry Francona is going to the Reds? What? He's the one who retired as the Cleveland Guardians manager for health reasons. Remember last October? The beloved manager. He's managed the Guardians. He's managed the Phillies. He's managed the Red Sox. You remember him? Remember the guy who's won 2 World Series, 3 managers of the year? No? The guy who we assumed would not manage again? All of a sudden, he takes 1 year off, and Bob Castellini of the Reds fires David Bell about a week ago. They've got a team that they think underperformed. They love their young players. Take a look at Ellie De La Cruz. But somehow they get 65-year-old, maybe, if not definite Hall of Famer Terry Francona to manage. What's the first thing? I want to play a game with you, the audience, right now. When I say Terry Francona is managing the Reds, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And this will be funny because I think that this is a David thing, or maybe not. We're going to find out. Well, I've given you long enough. The first thing that came to my mind was Tony La Russa going to the White Sox. I don't know the relationship between Terry Francona and Bob Castellini. I did know the relationship between Tony La Russa and Jerry Reinsdorf. It was deep, serious, and significant. I mean, not in a prurient way, just in a professional way. I don't know that that relationship exists. I've never heard of that. When I've spoken to Terry, it's never come up. Hey, I really would love to manage the Reds. Yeah, the Reds are a historic team, historical, but I'm not sure what it is that Castellini thinks. Is it because he's in the NL Central now and that he wants to do something in the same state where the Guardians are? Is it he watches Stephen Voigt with the Guardians winning and maybe winning manager of the year? It's inexplicable to me. You're asking me if it's a good hire. I don't know why you think that people inside the industry know more than you do about what's a good hire and what's not. We certainly have more people we have access to. We certainly have the ability to sit down with managers and talk to them. I don't think that Terry Francona is the manager that there was a huge process and people came out and said, this is our guy. This sounds like a straight OP. Straight. OP means owner's prerogative. We're going to find out because word's going to leak out, but that's my gut feeling. I'm actually happy for Terry, Tito Francona, because when you have a chance to do something you love to do and it gets taken away from you, or you're forced to walk away from it, and you're not sure you're ever going to get a chance again, AJ Hinch, and then you do get a chance, you say to yourself, you're going to be different. You're going to take it in differently. You're going to act differently. You're going to feel differently. Terry Francona, my guess is, has all those feelings today. He's going to be announced at some point. It's going to be big. The Reds hire Terry Francona. All right, when we take a break, we are going to review a 10-episode series that I am going to tell you to watch. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with the Marlins. And keep in mind, for the percentage of you that are from Miami and Marlins fans, this is not an FDJ segment by any stretch. You know what Derek Jeter did to your franchise. You know it. Whether you think he did more or less than I did, negatively or positively, he's gone. What the Marlins have done in the past couple weeks is worth noting and worth explaining, and we'll do that after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is Friday, October 4th. Thank you for downloading and subscribing and for all the things you do to interact with me every single day. I do appreciate it. I want to talk about today is the second day of Rosh Hashanah. I wished everyone a happy new year yesterday. I'll do it again today. There is a new series on Netflix with Adam Brody. Long live the OC. Of course, I hang out with people who knew what that was, and I had no idea that Adam Brody was in the OC. I'm like, do you mean Leighton Meester's husband? He's in a show with Kristen Bell. Yes, that's Dax Shepard's wife, but more importantly, the actress you've seen in so many funny movies, so many good movies. They star as a rabbi and a shiksa. If you don't know what a shiksa is, it's sort of pejorative, but not really. It's meant to indicate a non-Jewish woman. And when a Jewish man is with a non-Jewish woman, it can create some instability in the Jewish household. This is a 10 episode. They're like 20 to 25 minutes each episode. It flies by like Ted Lasso. It's created, developed, and mostly written by Aaron Foster, who I believe is the Real Housewife's husband, Catherine McPhee's now husband, daughter, David Foster, the St. Elmo's Fire theme guy. I believe you've seen him on Bravo, but then he got divorced and then he remarried Catherine McPhee and they do all these singing and touring together. Well, he has a daughter named Erin who put this show together based on her life experience. It's a show that hits every note correctly. There are 2 things wrong in episode 10. I'll wait for you to tell me what they are, but you will laugh when you see it. You don't have to be Jewish to enjoy it. I happen to have watched it with someone who's not Jewish, and she loved it. If you can relate to it, you're going to love it more. If you can't relate to it, you're still going to love it. How many things do you watch that you don't relate to that you can still say, wow, that's quality? Nobody wants this. Is so good. We need good shows like this, and there's so many good ones right now. Thank you, Bill Lawrence. Thank you, Will Smith. Nobody wants this. Check it out. You know what nobody wants? Nobody wants to be a Marlins fan. I can't tell you how sad that makes me. And I would like to point out to you, lest there be any confusion as we approach 5 years doing nothing personal, I root for the Marlins. I want to be a part of a positive legacy, a championship legacy, because if they can win another World Series, to have 3 World Series in their short tenure, they just started in 1993. You're supposed to win 1 every 30 years. We've won 2. Imagine winning 3 in a matter of 50 years. It's just amazing. So I want them. I didn't want Derek Jeter to succeed because of the way he acted, though I was thankful for being so financially illiterate, but I was not all that interested in him succeeding, though I wanted the employees and the team to succeed. I sort of got my wish when the Marlins made the playoffs right after they fired him. But what's going on now in Miami, I need to help you understand. A lot of articles. The Marlins fire 70 people. The Marlins have sweeping changes. It's absolute. No one knows what they're doing down there. It's unacceptable. It's mayhem. I want to explain why all people in the media and all the fans think it. Because the leader of this talks like this.
Something great, and we're doing it the right way. We're going to give them all of the resources that they need on the field, off the field to be successful. We're going to care about them. We're going to put them in positions to succeed, and we're going to be doing that in all facets of the organization in a way that will build a championship level team.
I can't even. Boy, I really want to run through a wall for him. That's Peter Bendix, the head of baseball operations. There's going to be a switch away from these type of president of baseball operations. I promise you. It's going to happen. You've got to be able to lead. You've got to motivate people. You have to have a vision. You have to have an owner who understands it, not who's totally checked out and just basically yesing someone. The reasons why the Marlins are not going to be successful is not because they fired 70 people. It's because they don't have the revenue or the pockets of ownership or the credit available or the TV deal to invest any further in the product, and they can't lose any more money. They've been losing money since the day they bought the team. Did they overpay for the team? Yes, obviously, but that's not why. They don't have the money. They've been running at a loss because their payrolls are high, and all the dreams that Derek Jeter sold them were absolutely untrue nightmares. All of the money they spent to get rid of the home run sculpture, to redo the seats behind the plate, all the different party areas, none of them have paid for themselves. They've all been done at a loss. The reason Skip Schumacher is not the manager is not because of money. It's because he didn't want to work under Peter. That is the fact. Why? Because the Marlins are being asked, and what the owner wants is they make me Tampa. Whatever they do, we're doing. In order to be Tampa, you need someone really good as an owner. You need a brilliant president of the team, a brilliant president of baseball operations, and unbelievably diverse talent in your baseball department. You need to exude leadership and confidence and make signings where players outperform their contracts, not sign Garcia, not sign Tim Anderson. You've got to hit on every or most every trade you make. You want to be Tampa? The Marlins, nor many other teams, are even remotely close to what Tampa is. However, one of the things that you do when you're president of baseball operations, and you can bring in your own manager, and don't believe what Peter said on that tape beforehand, which we didn't show, which is we're going to take our time. We want to get the right fit with the manager. He's known that Skip was leaving before the season started. They've had an entire year to figure out who the manager is going to be. Don't believe him when he says, hey, we're going to start and we're going to do a lengthy, detailed process. No timeline. It's horse hockey. They've been undergoing this process since game 1 of the season. Oh, I met with Skip and we decided we were going to part ways. No, it was done before the season started. Next, the type of changes that Peter's doing in order to make the Marlins like Tampa. It requires a change in philosophy at the minor league level with all levels of teams. I guess you fire all of them, put in all new managers, hitting coaches, pitching coaches, training staff. At least 5 per team. That's 5. That's 30 people right there. Firing the clubhouse manager, give me a break. The traveling secretary, you don't like your team hotels? They didn't do enough for Bruce and the other limited partners? What's the reason traveling secretaries and home clubhouse managers do not get fired? They're basically lifetime appointments. It's outrageous. The fact that Jeter hired who we use is because Jeter definitionally wanted whoever Jeter wanted. Maybe that's what Peter's saying. I want my own traveling secretary, someone I can really trust to tell me all the secrets of the players, how many rooms each player has on the road, how many visitors they get at each time of the night. It's infuriating to me. That said, if you want to change out 70 people, have at it. It happens. When a new person comes in to run a company, a lot of people lose their jobs. It happens in every industry. The thing is, when you do that, you better be right. Because if not, the franchise gets set back even more and you get canned. This is the moment of truth. I think Peter Sherman, 4869. I think Bruce Sherman must look around in Miami, despondent. I know I used to, but I was only the team president. Looking around at Mickey Arison, how beloved he is. Looking at the success of the Panthers now under Vinny Viola. They have the Stanley Cup. Looking at Stephen Ross, who is the single worst on-field owner in the history of South Florida. There is no question. He is the podium for bad owners in South Florida. Does he spend money? Great. He hasn't won a playoff game. He's owned the team for 2 decades. He hasn't won a playoff game. Forget a Super Bowl. Forget an LCS, I was going to say. Forget a conference championship game. The guy hasn't won a game. But there's F1 in Miami. They play some tennis. They've redone Hard Rock. Gotten plenty of public money. Used some of the NFL's private fund. Built up the value of his team. Everybody's happy. Whistling Dixie out of their tuchus. And Bruce Sherman saying to himself, how can this be? How can my team be worth less 7 years later than what I paid that arsehole Samson? And the Dolphins, under Stephen Ross, have done nothing but go up in valuation. Do you think Bruce calls Rob Manfred, says, Rob, What's going on? How can my team be worth under 1.2? It's almost impossible. And we've poured in hundreds of extra millions into the stadium and into losses. This is horrible. Doesn't make Rob happy either. Stephen Ross is about to sell 13% of his team at a valuation of over $8 billion. Now, let's be clear. It's not just the team. Stephen Ross is selling a piece of his empire, not the real estate empire, not related. We're talking about Hard Rock Stadium, the Grand Prix, and the Dolphins. How that gets allocated, we'll never know. Not really relevant. But the reality is that he found a private equity firm to buy 10% of the Dolphins. The math is that Stephen Ross will get about $800 million for that. It's quite a capital gain, quite an interesting tax planning scenario for the recently divorced owner of the Dolphins. Certainly gives him money to put to work in other facets of his professional life. And it indicates to the rest of us the power of PE. Remember when the NFL agreed to it? We did a whole show on it. We did a whole segment on it. We said it's going to happen immediately. I may have a wait to see on this, Coca. What I'm trying to understand is that PE firms need an ROI. They need a return on investment. When you buy a team for $200 million and you sell it for $4 billion, that's a pretty good return. When you buy a team at a valuation of $8 billion, what exactly are you telling the people in your PE fund? We're going to get a solid 8% ROI year over year. There's going to be dividends. There's no dividends. Distributions, unlikely. And now we see why Stephen Ross rolled up other assets to give to the PE firm. When you put F1 together with the stadium and the team, you have a chance to collectively be more like Fenway Sports Group than like the Miami Dolphins. You have a chance to take a business, roll up a bunch of other assets into that business, and show growth that would be indicative of what a private equity firm would want. Short of this roll-up strategy, it is going to be very difficult in my mind for PE firms to get any sort of return, not because I think franchises are in a bubble where it's going to burst and the values are going to go down, but I just don't think they're going to increase at the same rate that they've been increasing over the last decade or two. And it really does make sense to me, because do you see a world very soon, 10 years from now, let's just call it 10 years. 10 years ago is 2014. It's not that long ago. 2034. You think that like NBA teams will be worth $24 billion? Just don't think so. We had to wait to see on August 21st of this year, the minute private equity investment was allowed by the NFL, we said it will happen before the end of 2025. What a horrible wait to see. It's happening before the end of 2024. Stephen Ross wants to get this approved prior to the end of the calendar year. And this is only half of what Stephen Ross did. He's selling another 3% to Joseph Tsai. Joseph Tsai? The owner of the Nets? Hold on. What's happening here? Why would Joseph Tsai want to own a piece of the Miami Dolphins? Is he pulling a Kushner? Does he want to move to Miami? Does he already live somewhere in Palm Beach? Is he thinking to himself, this is perfect. This gets me an NBA plus NFL, but 3% of an NFL team? What's the use of that? Is there a succession strategy in place? Does Joe Tsai, if he comes in, have a path to control? Because otherwise, why are you bothering putting 3% at an $8 billion valuation when you're barely going to be able to get into the owner's suite and share a cup of Java with Marino? There's going to be more to this story. But in the meantime, Stephen Ross said Roger Goodell Appreciate you. Don't mind if I do. And he did. Nothing personal pick of the day. How many days in a row, Coca, have we split 1-1? It's got to be, I assume, 3 in a row. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. When the Mets beat the Brewers, I figured we got it. The Bucks are beating the Falcons. We've got the Bucks plus 1.5. I love the Bucks. All of a sudden, there's an outrageous end of fourth quarter drive by the Falcons that gets them into field goal range, and then they hit a 52-yarder after. Can you imagine a delay of game before a timed field goal? Coca, give me a minute on this. It's insane. For those of you who didn't watch the Bucks-Falcons game or don't care, when you're lining up for a field goal on a 4th down, there's something called a play clock. And when your 3rd down doesn't convert to a 1st down and the game is ending and you got to hit a field goal, you got to get the field goal unit on the field and you've got to kick the field goal. Meanwhile, the Falcons were dilly-dallying. Da-da-da-da-da. They were looking at their nails. Ooh, my nails don't look bad, actually, which is shocking. Actually, not that shocking. It was not on 1st down, Coca. I was watching it. They got a delay of game penalty. They had to be pushed back 5 yards for a game-time field goal at the end of the game because they couldn't get the playoff in time and they didn't have any timeouts left. But they still hit the field goal and then won it in overtime, and we lost. 8 of the last 9 nothing personal picks of the day when we've done 2 picks have split. That's really not acceptable. So what are we going to do this weekend? We're going to do 3 picks. Why? Because I will not split this weekend. I refuse. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Saturday's game, Dylan Cease and Yamamoto. I'm taking the Padres over the Dodgers in game 1 of that series. The Padres are underdogs, plus 114. Dylan Cease is an underdog? All right. Have at it if you will. And then we've got the Phillies and the Mets. I'm going to go anti-Milwaukee. I mean, I told you I'm picking the Phillies. I mean, they're in a 5-game series. I could say anything's going to happen. Maybe anything will happen. Wheeler is a heavy favorite in game 1. He's right now odds subject to change, minus 192 over TBA. TBA is a very, very good pitcher. My guess is he's got a beard. He's probably about 6'4", and he used to pitch for the Yankees. But we'll find out. So the Padres and Wheeler. What about Sunday? Since we've been talking about the Dolphins and Miami and the Marlins, the Dolphins have a problem. The problem they have is they're getting 1 point from the New England Patriots. The problem is if the Dolphins lose this game, whether they're going to rush Tua back or not is not wholly relevant to me. I'd hope and would hope that independent doctors will not allow Tua to be rushed back. I don't care that he's standing on the sideline. I don't care that he looks good, that he's traveling with the team. Tua is 1 concussion away from having his career over. It's not like there'll be a question. If he gets hit in the head again and goes into the protocol again with a concussion, he will simply, that'll be it. He will never be cleared back again. So therefore, the Dolphins and their embattled coach, Mike McDaniel, who used to be quirky and cute and now is ineffective and not as endearing, they find themselves in a must-win situation against the no longer Bill Belichick-led Patriots. The problem is the Dolphins' defense has been mediocre. Their receiving core, while not hurt, partially hurt. Where's Tyreek? Oh, I still want to be here. I'm so happy. One of their defensive best players announced he was out for the year on his own Instagram. We're taking the Patriots. I'm sorry, Dolphins fans. So we've got the Padres over the Dodgers, the Phillies over the Mets, and the Patriots over the Dolphins. Well, when you see me Monday, guess what? Coca and I, we're going to Miami. We're going to be in studio on Monday, live from the Elser, 8 o'clock. But here's the biggest announcement we've made, maybe in a long time, since we started the show, or since we started going live. I'm going to have a co-host on Monday. We haven't had a co-host one time. We've done 1,140 of these shows, but we're going to have someone sit with us and do nothing personal on Monday. And his name is Dan Lebitard. He and I got together and he said, you know what, David? What you do is so lonely and so difficult. You're talking into the abyss. I want to do the show with you. And I said, really? He said, yeah, but come to Miami. I said, of course we will. So Samson, Lebitard, Coca together for Nothing Personal, live, 8 a.m. Monday. Have a very good weekend. Let's be careful out there. Do you think Dan's doing this for pleasure, or is it just business? We'll find out. This is Nothing Personal.